How's it going, everybody? I'm finally back after a very, very long, unplanned, maybe mental hiatus. I had just kind of gone in between two jobs. I'm finally settled down. I had to move to a new state. I'm still in college. And I finally have it all figured out for the time being, so I wanted to get back to making the videos that I do enjoy. So today we're going to be taking a look at what I believe is the best idle game that I've ever played. Granted, I don't have a huge repertoire of idle games that I've played. However, this has been such a great just release of dopamine for me. I've been playing for over a year and a half now, and I know playing's a loose term when it's an idle game, but to me, it's just as fun as any other game that I'm playing right now. So, for those of you that don't know, idle games are basically games where you set things up and over time you get experience or you get an item or a resource, and then you use that resource to upgrade your other stats or your equipment, and you use that to get more of the same resource. So basically it's just like exponential growth. You're trying to get better, to own everything that you could possibly buy. I would say the best, maybe the well known idle game that I can think of is Cookie Clicker. That's a game that I think most people have heard of. You just go, you click on a cookie, you buy some grandmas and some factories and like rocket ships and stuff like that. And the whole point of the game is to just make cookies. And as you make cookies, you spend cookies, and you spend cookies on grandmas and spaceships, like I said earlier. And that's how you increase your cookie output. And through that, you enjoy seeing the big numbers, and it's enjoyable. I'm assuming that's why most people play idle games, just because the flat amount of big numbers that you get to see it's always a fun time. You can see your progress and understand what you're doing so much better than a lot of games that are a little bit more confusing. So this idle game, it's basically not exactly a one-to-one to RuneScape, if anyone's ever played that, but it's very, very similar to RuneScape. The guy that made this, it's a one-man team. He's done such a fantastic job when it comes to this game, and the game actually did end up getting purchased by Jagex. So now RuneScape actually owns it, as far as I understand. And so the game is fantastic. RuneScape's the game that I first played when I first got into MMORPGs. It was the first computer game that I played, so it holds a special place in my heart, and it definitely like molded me into the biases and the preferences that I have. Playing RuneScape my whole life, I grew up not liking WoW, and all my buddies that play WoW, they think RuneScape's crap, and it's such a fun time. So RuneScape, you go around, and for any of you that still play it or used to play it, botting is it's been a big problem for a long time. They really crack down, but it's just one of those things that it's gonna never really be stopped. And so you see all those bots, and you're like, it's such a shame that I can't play, more often, because you have work, you're in school, you have stuff to do, and so you can't really commit that time to RuneScape or just any other game. So this idle game has really solved all of those problems for me, because I can just let it go while I go to work, while I'm doing my classes and stuff like that. And you still get that same EXP rate that you would if you were playing the whole time. So for me, this has been such a great time. So without further ado, that game, it's going to be called Melvor Idle. You can buy it on Steam, and you can also play it on a browser version as well as an app version on your phone. The browser and the app versions, I don't believe they have all of the features that you would get if you spend the $10, but the game is 100% playable if you use either of those other versions. So if you just want to try this out, definitely just Google Melvor Idle. You'll find the link online very quickly. It's one of the top one or two, and you can just try it out there. So if you don't want to spend the $10, you don't have to. I went ahead, I spent the $10 because it's just this one person making this. The product is fantastic, and I just wanted to support him. So I just went ahead and I created a new character for the video. I have 3 characters going for the time being. I've been playing for about a year and a half. Just like RuneScape, you can start with a tutorial. This tutorial is going to go through basically woodcutting, fishing, fire making, cooking, all that good stuff you would get on Tutorial Island in RuneScape, and just kind of give you a better understanding of how to actually play the game. And you also get a couple rewards, but I'm going to go ahead and I'll skip the tutorial just to show you guys a couple more features basically. So all of the skills, they're going to be on the left side. You have your combat at the top, and you can toggle this to hide it if you don't want to look at it. You also have your non-combat on the bottom, and same thing, you can toggle it if you don't want to see it. There's almost not exactly a one-to-one relation to RuneScape, but there are a lot of skills that are in RuneScape that you will also find here. One of the skills that is new to me is going to be astrology. Astrology is basically a skill where you study the stars and you get a better understanding of the world, for lack of better terms. But you can use these to get stat modifiers and bonuses to your other skills. When I first started playing the game, I was like, oh, I'm just going to go from the top down and I'm going to level all of my skills to 99. So I was pretty sad when I got all the way down to astrology, which is the last skill. This alt magic is actually the same magic as this. It's just a different way to train. So I did astrology last, and so I was really upset when I got down here, and you don't really get to use any of the modifiers that you would get to if you did astrology first. So there's a tip. If you're going to play this, astrology might be the most meta way to start. Same thing with agility. You can build these obstacles, and this one doesn't have anything, but down here you'll see more bonuses. And agility is another great skill for you to get bonus EXP on all of your other skills, or resource reservation, stuff like that. So for the skills, you'll just basically click on this. It'll tell you what experience you're gonna get and how long each iteration takes. You'll get an item. It'll go to your bank. You can move things around however you want. There's a bunch of bank tabs, and once you set something in here, so now whenever I get a log, it's always gonna go to the same thing. So whenever you put any item anywhere, like I have all mine separated between different skills and resources and stuff like that, and it'll tell you how much your bank's worth, and it'll tell you how much the tab's worth. Your bank, you start out with 12 slots. This is one of those limiters that they put into the game, but you could solve that using the shop. The shop is not something you would see in RuneScape, but just imagine it's the Grand Exchange, right? It's somewhere you can go to buy things that you might not exactly have access to. A large majority of these things are items that will decrease the amount of time it takes you to actually do skills. You can buy bank slots here. One of the things that is not idle in this game that I have seen some complaints about online is the combat. So the combat isn't idle until you purchase this item right here called auto eat. And what this does is it'll automatically eat for you once you get below a certain amount of HP. Even then, you need to make sure that your HP isn't lower than the maximum hit of whatever you're fighting. So later on I'll show you up here, this is the combat UI basically. It'll tell you your max hit, chance to hit, accuracy rating, all your evasions, how many prayer points you have, your gear, attack styles, stuff like that. Down here will be your loot. And then you can choose like different areas to fight different monsters. There's also dungeons. And basically, if I'm fighting a chicken, and its max hit is like, we'll say 42, and you have auto eat, and if you guys read that, it says that automatically consume food to fill your hit points to 40% when it is equal or below to 20%, and it also is less efficient. So when you're idling, your food is actually only healing you for 60% of what it actually is supposed to heal you for. So it only heals you when you go below 20%. So if 20% of my HP, right now it's only 20, so the max hit is 42. That means I cannot idle this because it will actually kill me. Because if I had, let's say, I don't want to do the math, but let's just do something very simple. Say we have 300 HP, 20% of that's going to be 60. So if I ever go below 60 HP, I'm going to automatically eat. Therefore, I'm never going to be below 42 HP, which means you can idle that monster. So basically when you're going through and doing combat in the beginning, it's very slow because you really can only kill, like, look at this, you kill plants, you get potatoes, it's fantastic. You can die to this plant too, it's an achievement if you guys want the Steam achievement. But this is the first thing that you can fight, and I mean, it'll still do damage to you. It's 11 and it only has a 13% chance, so this is obviously the best way to level up in the beginning. But as you get it later, you do the dungeons, there's monsters that hit you for so hard, and that brings you to probably the most important stat, and that's going to be damage reduction. Damage reduction is something that does exactly what it says. It reduces the amount of damage that you take. And you can get this up to absurd amounts, basically, through items, through potions, summoner, stuff like that. And that's your main stat when it comes to idling melee monsters or dungeons and stuff like that. Because If you don't have that, you're just gonna die unless you have auto eat all the way up to max. But even when you level auto eat up to the 3rd tier, it's not 100%. So I still struggle on my maxed out character. There's monsters that can one-shot me. As you can see up here, it'll let you know that offline combat's not enabled. So if, say, I like were to fight that plant again and then I close this, it's not actually going to keep fighting. It'll stop right there because it doesn't want you to die. If you die, you do lose items. So it'll let you know, and then you can just click enable and it'll give you this like warning and like, oh, you could die, you can lose items, blah, 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 blah. So they let you know before you do something stupid. Alright, so I just wanted to head back to the shop real quick to show you guys a couple more things. Equipment sets are something that are very, very helpful because it'll actually just allow you to save some time when it comes to swapping out gear when you're doing a different skill. If you go up here, you'll see a 1. That'll spread out to 4 once you purchase them all, and it'll just save you time. Certain dungeons require certain attack styles, certain skills require certain items, and as your bank gets larger and you have more items, it's somewhat a pain to go through everything and get those all set up. Another thing is this loot container stacking. There's an item, another kind of gripe with combat is that you can't auto loot basically until you get an item from one of the dungeons, and that is one of the most important items I would say in the game, and this right here will make it to where you don't have to actually wear that necklace anymore and your items just stack in the loot, because once you go over 100 items in the loot section down here in combat, 0 of 100, you can't get any more items. So you'll come back from doing combat in the beginning and you'll be really sad because you'll see all the stuff you missed out on. It reminds you, it wants you to know. So that's kind of a big item. It tells you right here where you get it, so you just have to go do that dungeon, and the drop rate, it's very, very fair. It's not very difficult to get, so one of the most important things to do. Down here are these 3 items for mining, fishing, and woodcutting. These just basically decrease the amount of time it takes you to do the skill, so you get, experience faster. This also gives you an increase in doubling your ore, just particular to the pickaxe. You also have a cooking fire, the furnace, and the pot. Cooking fire is going to increase your cooking experience. And then down here is just the perfect cook chance. This is a little bit different than RuneScape, so you can enable perfect cooks right here. And what that does is you can cook a perfect of the item. For example, so say you're cooking shrimp, right? You can cook a perfect shrimp, and this perfect shrimp is gonna give you basically more HP when you eat it, and it also sells for a lot more. So down here you'll see like your percent chance of cooking, your percent chance of perfect cooking, and then double and reserve resources. And I would always leave this enabled. I think it just makes the game a little bit easier for you when it comes to food, basically. If you're trying a little bit more hardcore, you can just always disable it. It's really nice. It's a checkbox. Saves you a ton of time. The furnace and the pot, these you have to purchase, and this is just how you would cook other recipes, basically. This one, it's going to have all your fish, so for the most part, you don't really need these to level up. But eventually, when you're going to master cooking, you're going to have to buy these. Couple other things that are pretty relevant here in Slayer. When you do Slayer tasks, you get Slayer tokens every single time you kill a mob, and you'll use these to basically buy items that get you access to other areas. This skull cape right here, it's rune preservation, and this basically saves your runes. You're gonna want this. Auto Slayer, so same thing with not being able to idle combat. It's not possible to idle Slayer. When you have a task and you're killing a monster that gives you Slayer experience, you get Slayer experience after you finish your task. It's just significantly less, and you don't get any Slayer tokens. So once you get this Auto Slayer, you can toggle this, and it'll basically go to the next monster that you're supposed to kill for your task. Therefore, it makes Slayer AFK. And then all the way down here, there's these items. They're just kind of, they make things a little bit easier. So like gems are kind of hard to get, and there's some things that you're really going to need gems for. So these gem gloves make it a little bit easier for you to get them. Same thing with thieving. There's other gloves that you can get eventually, but these ones just make thieving a little bit easier. Cooking, mining, smithing, same thing. This is also where you buy all of your skill capes. Skill capes, they have great bonuses for the skills that they are for. And so you're definitely gonna, once you get 99, 1, it has good stats for combat, and 2, it's just extremely helpful. And then down here, there's a couple items that you can't really get as easily from killing monsters. Feathers, I mean, I would never buy feathers, just go kill chickens. But everything else here, it just sometimes takes a little bit longer to get. So it's much easier to just buy leather and buy dragon hide than it is to go and kill the cows or kill the dragons. Basically, it just makes it to where I don't need to be, a level 100 combat to go kill dragons to level up my crafting. You can just buy it in the store. Makes life simple. Same thing with summoning shards. These don't drop as far as I'm aware, so you always have to purchase these here. The last thing I want to take a look at, we'll see if it's here. I don't think it's in here. So one of the nice things about this game is that it's actually about to go through a really big update where all of the skills are going to actually be max level 120. I'm going to go ahead and swap to a different character so you guys can kind of get a better idea of what this looks like. This is the character that has been live for a year and a half about now. And I'm doing a couple Slayer tasks. I'm going to switch this around. This is the worst Slayer task because these things just have so much HP. It just takes so long, so finishing these last Master Slayer tasks is a pain. But anyways, so as you can see, you can toggle it to where it shows you how much experience you have over level 99. So let's say my farming, for example, it's 116 out of 99. So once that update comes around, I'm actually going to be 116 of 120. And so the main point of this game, at least for me, is just getting everything 100% completion. As you can see, I have 291 bank slots, which isn't really a ton. I have everything separated between skills, and like this is my combat gear, this is my crafting and skilling gear, woodcutting, fishing and food, blah, 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 blah. And one of the nice things is your bank slots, they actually cap out for how much you could purchase them for. It's going to be 5 mil for one. And so eventually, it's not super hard to make money once you do the correct, basically, it's thieving. Thieving's the best. You can do great farming when it comes to dungeons and stuff if you're just not as interested in the thieving, but it's not super hard to make money once you get to the end game. Granted, it's gonna take a hot minute before I get, the what's it down here? It's like 2.147, which is, if you guys play RuneScape, 2.147 is the max cash stack. So once you get above that, it actually says unknown, and that's because RuneScape coded their items as integers. But anyways, the nice thing, like I was saying, is that there's a huge update coming out. It's going to be fantastic content, new items, etc., etc. And basically, I'm just in a rush to finish my completion log. So this basically tells you where your character's at when it comes to having every single thing in the game. And it'll separate it into categories. We have your skills, so you just have to get them to 99. That's pretty simple. Mastery is where it's actually a pain in the butt. The only one that I have 100% is farming. Granted, that's because I've been mostly focusing on combat versus skills. And so if you look at these, you'll see each one of these goes all the way to 99. And you'll spend this experience right here, this is your mastery experience, to level this up. And you also get mastery experience as you, so say I'm cutting a normal tree, I'll get experience for the normal tree. And what these kind of do is, as you go to woodcutting, view checkpoints, these checkpoints, so when I have 5% of my mastery experience bar filled out right here, I get a 5% increase woodcutting mastery experience. So it's kind of like a fine line on what you're focusing on. So if I was to do woodcutting and be trying to get all these, I would spend this probably all the way up to 25% maybe, because I want to get these double logs. So I would spend all of these because I don't care. The good thing is it'll stop you from accidentally going over. So say you're trying to level them up as you're doing the skill also, but you want to keep them. It asks you if you want to actually do that, because it's like, hey, if you level this up, you're going to lose out on that 95% bonus. So it won't let you do anything on accident. So don't worry about that. Well, yeah, so there's mastery, there's items. There's a ton of items in this game. You get a multitude of ways. Some things I never did. I never got bronze, swords or iron stuff, because how I played it is I did the smithing all the way to 99. So when I finally started doing combat, I actually had all of the gear I needed, and that's because I smithed it. But yeah, just tons of items, and you have to find every single one of these. So some of these are bigger pains in the butt. So like this guardian amulet, it's from one of the hardest dungeons. Its drop rate is like 0.6%, and it's just gonna take forever. Monsters, same thing. You just have to beat one of them for you to unlock this. So it's not like something you have to do thousands of times. You just have to do it once. Same thing with the dungeon bosses. And then last thing, there's pets. Pets in RuneScape, if you guys play, they just follow you around. They look great. They have really, really low drop chances, but it's more of like a collectionist clout thing than it is like actually impacting the game. Whereas these actually impact your game. So different things will drop pets, and it'll tell you if you hover over the question mark, like so this says achieve maximum level and all summoning marks, and I'll unlock the pet. And these pets, so here's the woodcutting pet. It has a 5% chance to double items with woodcutting. Here's one for fishing, same thing, double fishing. Fire making, this is just cooking, mining, etc, etc. And these are all super duper helpful, especially this guy, 1% damage reduction. It's just bonus 1% damage reduction. So good. And you get these from dungeons, you get them from skilling, you get them from doing combat, and their drop rates, they're not super duper bad. I've had some bad times with a couple of them, but for the most part, it's very, very fair. So overall, I would highly recommend this game, regardless of if you've played RuneScape or not. If you played RuneScape, this will be so much more enjoyable to you, because for me, it gives me that nostalgia feeling of playing RuneScape, but I don't actually have to put the time into playing RuneScape anymore. And if you like idle games, I think this has one of the best systems. It's not just, oh, you know, purchase these things with the resource that you have to get more of the same resource. There's so much more to do here that the amount of time that it's going to take you to play this, like I have 176 days on this account. That is so much time, and it's always getting you experience. That's the best part. So it is so much fun. This stat right here is just kind of a slap in your face. But I would recommend this highly. And if you just want to try it out, get the browser version, get the phone version, try it out, see if it's worth it. And then I would just go and throw the $10 at the game on Steam, just so you can support. His name is Malx, this guy right here, who's done such a fantastic job bringing this game to us. So again, if you guys have any idle games or just any other games in general that are more kind of centered around like fishing and woodcutting, those like slice of life things, not exactly, you know, MMOs, which I'll take a look at, but just any games in general that you really enjoy and you want to take a closer look at it or have me do a video, just let me know, and I would be happy to take a look at it, because I have so much fun finding these not exactly obscure, but games that a lot of people would never play, and then I'll talk to my friends about them. And since I've started playing Melvor, I've dragged like 10-15 people into playing this game, and I crack up so hard when I get the little Steam notification that says that they're checking their account. I love it so much. So until the next time, I greatly appreciate all the support that you guys have given me. It has been a long break, and I hope I can bring you the content that I am best at. So thank you. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time.